Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Selling Greenville, your favorite real estate podcast here in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm your host, as always, Stan McCune, realtor right here in Greenville. You can find all of my contact info in the show notes if you need to reach out to me for any of your real estate needs. Just a reminder, as always, please rate, review, subscribe, all of those good things with regard to the show. By the way, in case you didn't get my email, which I tried to email all of my past clients, got some bounce backs. Maybe emailed a few people that weren't past clients. I don't know. My CRM, I really need to clean it up. But I'm running a little bit of a contest right now. If you can review me on Zillow, I would greatly appreciate it. Review me on Zillow. You'll be entered into a drawing for a $250 gift card, which I will announce on this show probably during the month of October. Most likely, I'm going to give people a few weeks here. But I will be announcing it on this show who wins. There are some alternate ways to win as well, okay? So if you review me on Zillow, and then if you also review this show, okay, on whatever platform that you watch or listen to your podcast on, take a screenshot, send it to me, text or email, either one is fine. I've got a spreadsheet where I'm keeping up with all this stuff. And if you were a buyer client and you can take a picture of the front of your home, I would appreciate if you could send me a picture of the front of your home that I could put on my website. A lot of people don't realize this, but realtors are not allowed to use other realtors' photographs, okay, on their own website. Now, what I could do is I can connect my website to what's called an IDX feed, which is essentially my website would become a portal for the multiple listing service. But I don't want to do that. It costs a lot of money. It's really only valuable if people are searching on your website. But that's like the workaround. In case you're wondering, well, I've seen other realtors with websites that have, photos of the homes that they help their buyer clients purchase. Those realtors are subscribing to the IDX feed on their website, and so they're not actually taking the photos from the listing agents. They're simply publishing the IDX data, essentially. Okay, excuse me. By the way, I'm getting over a bug that I've had for a week now. It's been quite the time. Nothing major, but if you hear me clearing my throat and whatnot, I apologize. I don't do heavy editing on the show, so you're just gonna have to listen to that. But anyway, going back, if you were a buyer client, if you could take a picture of the front of your house, it's fine to take it now, or you can send me an old one from when you first bought it. Either one works for me. That will get you another entry for the $250 Amazon gift card. That's what I'm giving away. So the more entries you get, the more likelihood you have to win the gift card. $250, and it doesn't require a whole lot of effort from you. So I'd appreciate if you guys could get motivated and get out there and do it. Come on. And real quick, one other point of clarification, and I'm not going to go into all of this detail in the future when I mention this, but all of this is to get Zillow reviews because I have not done that in the past. So my company sends out a link to clients to what's called Testimonial Tree, and a lot of you have probably filled out reviews for me on Testimonial Tree, and I greatly appreciate that. Zillow doesn't like Testimonial Tree, and so. Unfortunately, Zillow is just a juggernaut that can't be avoided, and I need to finally really double down on and making sure that my exposure is out there. I can't just rest on my laurels. I'm getting a lot of interesting leads from people right now, and I know the first thing they do is they go to Zillow, look me up, and they see I've got 2 reviews on there, and that obviously doesn't look super good, right? I've been a realtor for 9 years, almost 10 years. And I've got 2 reviews on Zillow. What does that mean? I must be a part-timer. No, you guys know I'm not a part-timer. I do this full-time. But the general public doesn't know that. So I would really appreciate if you guys could do that. And I'd appreciate if you did the other things, but you need to do the Zillow review primarily. And if you need a link to it, just hit me up. Just shoot me a text, and I will send you a link to where you need to go in order to leave the review. Speaking of Zillow, we... recently within Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, which is the company that that my brokerage is a franchisee, I guess is a proper terminology, is a franchisee of. Berkshire Hathaway Home Services recently released this program where we can, for extra money, for it costs a few $100, and extra money on the photography side of things, we can list a home on Zillow Showcase. And I will be doing this for all listings moving forward. It costs me extra money. I'm not passing that along to my clients in any meaningful way. So, just so that you understand how this works, this is going to set your listings apart. Zillow, if you ever look at the Zillow map, you'll see that there are some listings on the map that stand out. And also, if you're just scrolling through Zillow, there are some listings that the algorithm prioritizes. And guess what? It is not the listings that are getting the most clicks or the listings that are that fit your search criteria the best. They're the listings that people had paid money for. People meaning specifically the listing agents. And in this market, every single thing you can do to get ahead helps. This is a brutal, brutal market to sell in. Like, let's just be honest. I've got several listings, and we'll get showings, and buyers just nitpick the daylight out of the listings. It doesn't matter how immaculate it is. It could be a fully renovated home. Buyers will find something to complain about. That is the market that we're in. So every little thing we can do to get ahead, I'm trying to do that, even if it's more of an upfront cost for me, really without the guarantee that I will ever get a commission. So I'm doing that now. This involves, I had to get my photographer. Shout out to Damien, great guy, great photographer, by the way. Everyone loves Damien. He actually, like, I told him about this, and I was like, you might need a new camera because Zillow requires a very specific camera because they do a 3D tour, and an interesting home layout where you can actually click where the bedrooms and all the different rooms are. So they require very specific, there's a handful of cameras, but not very many, that Zillow allows for this. And so, shout out to Damien, my photographer. I told him about this, and I said, hey, it would be great if you don't have the camera, I don't know how to ask this, but it would be great if you could get one so that we could do this. And he texted me back within a few seconds and was like, I'm getting the camera now. I was like, whoa, okay. So I love it. So if you need to sell a home, let me know. Your home will be getting priority views on Zillow. All right. One more thing, right? We're gonna get into market stats here in a second, which I know you guys are dying for, all the stat nerds that listen to this podcast. This past week, the South Carolina Association of Realtors had a conference that they called Realtor Mania. It had kind of a WWE kind of theme to it. It was fun, very, 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 very useful. And we just went through, it was a few days, several different receptions. We installed the new president of SCR, Corwin, Millette, I think is his last name, something like that. Great guy. I love Corwin. He's kind of a larger than life kind of personality. He'll be great, for our association. What's crazy, what's absolutely insane is that the South Carolina Association of Realtors just had, in the history of the association, their first ever Black president. And her name was Keon, and Keon Keon Aldrich, and Keon was fantastic. I'll tell a quick story about Keon. I go to a realtor conference in DC every year, and the first year I went, I didn't really know anyone. It's just kind of one of those things where I'm going, I have to do it, because of different positions of leadership I'm in the association. And but it's never fun when you're kind of don't know anyone, which is and I've been in this situation many times. But if you guys know me from my past life before real estate, I had to go to a lot of conferences where I didn't know anyone, in my previous line of work, and things like that. So there was one point where we were waiting for Biden to finish a speech, an impromptu speech at the Capitol. So they had the entire mall area, or the entire, not the whole mall, but the area around the Capitol roped off. And that was where we were supposed to be, which eventually William Timmons got us in, through a back way. But I was there standing at the fence, looking at the Capitol and taking some pictures and just kind of waiting. And Keon just came up and introduced herself and very, just like just a normal person, which she is. But also she's not, right? She knew that she was the next year going to be the president of the South Carolina Association of Realtors. Didn't lead with that. And that sort of humility was a hallmark of the entire year that she was president. Now we have, so she was the first ever Black president of the South Carolina Association of Realtors. Corwin is now the second ever. And so that's a pretty cool thing. I think, because obviously South Carolina has a bit of a complicated history when it comes to race related things. And sometimes we have to play a little bit of catch up on some of these things. So very excited for all of that. But the conference was great. Basically, one of the themes of the conference was that South Carolina is doing better in so many different ways than a lot of the countries, and specifically Greenville is. So even though this was not a Greenville conference, this was a South Carolina conference, Greenville kept coming up over and over again. Your market is doing better than other markets. So imagine what the other markets are like, because this does not feel this does not feel like a great market to me. So I feel bad for those in the other markets because that must be really tough. But it was a really good conference. We had it at Isle of Palms at the Wild Dunes Resort. Very expensive resort. Did have a good time. Got a little sunrise walk in on the primary day of the conference because I knew I'd just be sitting all day. That was fun. And I liked Isle of Palms. I'd never actually been to that island before, and it is an expensive island to go to. So if you do plan to go, be prepared for that. Nothing is cheap there. It's not intended for people that are just trying to get a quick little inexpensive getaway. That's not what this is. Go to Myrtle Beach for that. But I did enjoy myself there. All right, so all of that out of the way. Hopefully that was entertaining for you guys, or not. We're gonna get right into market stats here. Um, so let me pull up the right one. All right, here we go. So we're going to start off talking right at the top with new listings. What is happening with new listings? Well, interestingly, we've been seeing double-digit year-on-year gains in new listings almost the entire year. Basically from March onward, we've been seeing double-digit year-on-year gains. That changed in August. In August, we did see an increase in new listings year over year. But it was only a 6.8% increase. So August of 24 had 2178 new listings, August 25, 2327. So about 150 more listings year over year. But what has me the most interested is that oftentimes, if you look historically, and if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see this. Almost every year, prior to all the weirdness of, the post-COVID market, almost every year, there is this little bump that you see that happens that's like a month on month increase in new listings. That bump almost every time happens in August. Now, I don't focus much in this podcast on month trends, but when we see a month on month, a trend that frequently happens in a certain month and it doesn't happen, that is of interest to me. And if you're looking at the chart, you'll see that August month on month went down from July. Now, we did have a July bump. So maybe the bump was simply earlier. If that's the case, then that could mean that basically just everyone got everything out of their system basically by July, and that August was just an exceptionally slow month compared to normal. I don't know yet because right, we need to see what some of the other data, as it comes in September, October. By the way, I apologize this is so late. I really wanted to do this episode before the interview with Tina Belgi, which, by the way, that episode has been taking off all over the place. So if you haven't listened to that, Tina Belgi, candidate for Greenville City Council, I highly recommend it. It's an hour long, but you can hit the little speed up button and watch or listen to it that way if you want. But lots of good stuff in there. She has a lot of interesting ideas. Um, but anyway, I apologize for this coming out late. The stats did not come out until I was already at the conference. It was already too late for me to record it. But anyway, it's very interesting. New listings were soft. Basically, the long story short, new listings were soft in August, even though they were up year on year. They weren't up as much as you would expect, and month on month they were down. Which, by the way, that typically is an indicator. New listings aren't just an indicator for sellers; those are also an indicator for buyers as well. And so that can be an indication that we're entering an even slower time here in upcoming months. Excuse me. All right, pending sales. By the way, I just got out of the shower. If you see me scooping my hair out of the way, I don't have any product in it at the moment. So it's just kind of going all over the place. Pending sales. This is one of these numbers that always gets revised. I know we don't like data revisions in 2025, but they happen, and you just got to prepare for it. The thing is that I've tracked this for so long that I basically know what it's going to be revised to, and it's pretty simple. We can look back at August and see how August got revised. Sorry, not August, July. So July last month said 901 pending sales. That got revised up to 1,452 pending sales. Okay. And that's basically what I said would happen. That was pretty close to flat year on year, right? It was only a half a percentage point increase over the 1,445 pending sales that we had in July of 2024. The August number, that is the unrevised number, is 867. So basically, we can expect this to get revised into probably the low 1400s would be the norm revision. And August of 2024 was 1425. So more or less, I'm predicting that this is going to be revised back to essentially a flat pending sales number, or maybe a slight increase or a slight decrease, but it's going to be pretty close to that 1425 number. What's noteworthy about that is that we've had, the lowest increase year on year had been 1.5% the entire year. So we've had positive pending sales numbers all year, including March was 10.6% increase. February was an 8.2%. April was a 7.1%. So we had a real nice, strong spring season. And then that has just really tapered off the past couple of months. Again, seasonal cooling that's happening, but a cooling that is even more extreme than you might expect. We went from all the way up to a 10.6% year-on-year increase in pending sales to now running multiple months that I believe will end up being pretty close to flat months year-on-year. Closed sales, we had a decrease. Okay, and I am not surprised by this based on the weak pending sales numbers, right? The homes are falling out from under contract, slightly more than normal right now, in my opinion. I don't have a ton of data on that. But long story short, closed sales for August was down 2.1% year on year. It was 1,522 as compared to 1,554 the year before. And so you can see, we had the year was looking pretty decent for a while until just recently. So again, slowing down, cooling off, whatever metaphor you want to use, it's happening. Days on market until sale. August came in at 49 days. That's a 4-day or an 8.9% increase over the 45 days on market until sales. This is how long you can expect your home to be on the market until it goes under contract. Doesn't factor in price changes, decreases, things of that nature. A lot of those are happening, by the way. But right now we are at 49 days. A little more than a month and a half is how long it takes for a home to go under contract on average. Median sales price was up 1.3% year on year. We've only had one negative month all year in terms of the median sales price. So that continues The median for August was 324,250. Again, 1.3% increase over 319,950, which was August 2024. Don't be shocked if we get a few negative prints year on year on the median sales price in the back half of this year. That would not surprise me at all. And honestly, I'm kind of expecting at least one negative print here at some point. But we'll see. It's been remarkably resilient here in the Greenville market thus far. For 2025, prices have been ticking up. Again, just looking at it from a median sales price perspective, not every house has gone up 1.3% the past year. Some have gone down. Some haven't really gone up in value at all. And 1.3%, if you bought your home last year and you're wanting to sell it this year, odds are you're going to be paying more than 1.3% in closing costs. So you're not going to come out positive. So keep that in mind as well. This is just, I don't tell you guys what you want to hear. I tell you guys what you need to hear. That's what's happening. But if you want to know what's the average price in Greenville, again, I don't like to talk average. I like to talk median, more accurate, 324,000 and change. Now, if you want to know the average, it came in at 395,000, which is a pretty strong number, quite frankly. That's a 3.2% increase year over year from the 383,000 and change that we had in August of 2024. So that's your average and your median there. I don't think trend-wise that there's anything super noteworthy. In case you're looking at these and you're like, oh no, they're going down month on month, which is true, right? The July median was, the June median was 330. The July median was 331. Which let me see if those got revised. No, not really. And so now the August median comes down from a June and July. Similarly with the average price has been in the 400s for the past, and all of a sudden it got kind of echoey. Not sure why. The average price has been in the 400s for the past several months, and now suddenly it is below 400. This is seasonal, okay? This is something that we frequently see. The market tops out during the summer, and then it has a seasonal. I'm going to try to turn down my volume a little bit and hope that maybe that helps a little bit with the echoiness. Okay. I don't know if that just changed my headset or what, but I apologize for that. But seasonally, we do see the market these prices tend to top out in the summer. And then, they do keep going up, but it is a gradual going up from the summer peak season. That's why we say if you want max value on your house, your best bet is to sell in the summer. That's the reality. Not everyone can do that. Well, and I should say, when I say summer, I really mean spring. Because a lot of the homes that are selling in the summer were listed in the spring. Percent of list price received, 98.2%. That is a 0.2% decrease from August of last year. So this is the percentage found when dividing a property's sales price by its most recent list price and then taking the average for all properties sold in a given month, not counting for seller concessions. So a little bit of a decrease. Sellers aren't getting quite as much as they were last year. And I think that's them. They're just trying to move these properties, right? Homes that are on the market longer than people want them to be. And it's just like, you know what? We got to do something. What can we do? We can accept a lower offer. And so that's what's happening. Again, this is what happens in a cooling market. Housing affordability index. We had a month-on-month increase. It went from 92 to 95. However, it's a year-on-year decrease from 98 of August 2024. What does all that mean? We want this number to be 100. 100 means the median family can afford the median priced home. Now, what's interesting for it to go up month on month, that's a positive, obviously. But how did it go up all the way from 92 to 95 month on month when the median sales price only went down a little bit? Well, this number takes into account mortgage rates, and mortgage rates have come down a little bit in recent weeks. Now, they did hop back up a little bit. Let me look at Mortgage News Daily, which is an aggregator, currently saying that the average is about 6.35%. That is significantly lower than what it was back in July. It was hovering around 6.75%. And then in August, it was mostly in the 6.5s. And so we should see some positive. This it should be trending in the right direction. We might even see this number go up to, if not right around 100 for the month of September, if these mortgage rates for the remainder of the month stay in this, in this lower six range. Now, maybe I should do another episode on why mortgage rates are where they are. They actually went really, really low, relatively speaking, before the Fed cut their rates. The Fed didn't cut rates or issue the sorts of statements that the bond market really wanted the Fed to. The bond market wants the Fed to be super aggressive on cutting rates, and they didn't do that. They cut rates by a quarter point, which was expected, but the bond market had priced in a half a point. And so immediately when that happened, and then there wasn't a clear indication from the Federal Reserve that they were going to dramatically make any more cuts this year. Keyword dramatically, right? They're still projecting to make one or two more 25 basis point cuts this year, quarter point cuts. But the bond market wants more. When they didn't get that, then Treasury yields shot up and mortgage rates shot up with them. And so that's what's happened there. But we're still a lot lower than we were a couple of months ago with regard to mortgage rates. Inventory of homes for sale. This one is always one that gets revised as well. So let's look back at July. July came in last month at 6,444. That got revised down by about 600 units to 5,871. All right. This month, and that was a 32.4%, so a huge increase. That's the biggest of the year. 32.4% increase year over year versus July 2024. August came in at 6,540. That'll probably get revised down by roughly 600 units as well. So we're going to be kind of, again, right near 6,000, probably the 5,900 range, something like that. The year before that was 4,518. So we're probably going to see basically another 30-ish or so percent increase year on year. So inventory, and again, if you're looking at the map, inventory is now starting to get, I don't want to say worrisome. It depends on how you're thinking about it. But right now it's higher than we've seen since 2011. Okay, so that's not nothing, right? 2011, we were still in the global financial crisis. So we're now seeing inventory at levels comparable to the global financial crisis. Now, what we're not seeing is a bunch of foreclosure or short sale inventory. There is some of that, but not a whole lot. Most of that's getting bought up by corporations right now. And so it's not hitting, generally speaking, the retail market. It's getting absorbed in other ways. So inventory, this is a big story, right? This is, at the end of the day, this is the cooling that's happening. We see inventory levels higher than we've seen in almost a decade and a half. That is the story of 2025 right now, particularly this part of the year. And I mean, if you look at the chart, it is shooting up. I mean, if this were prices, we'd be freaking out. On the flip side, the prices were going crazy. But this is inventory, right? This is one of the main ways that we track the market. And it is shooting straight up. This can't continue up much longer before we start to see prices come down substantially. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. The main reason prices aren't coming down, again, I already alluded to it, is because we're not seeing a lot of foreclosure or short sale volume, and we're not going to. It's not going to happen. The delinquency rates right now are still historically extremely low. People have a lot of refinance options, a lot of restructure options with their loans. Don't expect this inventory to be apples to apples or to have an apples to apples result on the market like it did during the global financial crisis. That's not what I'm saying. However, this tells you a big story about how the market's cooling. Homes are not selling um, to the extent that they used to, and demand is not keeping up. And we're seeing that in month supply now. We've talked about this. The month supply numbers are deceiving. I've talked about this so many times because they are deceiving. Okay. So July was 4.1 months of inventory. That was revised down from 4.7. And August came in at 4.7. So odds are August is also going to be revised back down to 4.1 months of inventory. Those are both increases. July, that was a 24% increase from the 3.3 months of inventory in July 24. August had a 24 had a 3.4 months of inventory print. And so we'll see about a 20% increase year over year once that gets revised as well, from 4.7 down to probably roughly 4.1. And so, again, everyone's like, well, until it hits 6 months of inventory, it's still a seller's market. Nah, that's hogwash. Those old metrics don't apply anymore because of all the new construction inventory that we have that is changing the dynamics of the market. And so yes, even though demand and supply have more of an equilibrium, this is where if you're looking at the chart, this is really the biggest thing that's crazy when you look at inventory levels that are comparable to 2011, but then, sorry, if you're on YouTube, I apologize, I'm flipping back and forth here. Inventory levels comparable to 2011, but then you look at month supply, and I mean, we're nowhere near, right? 2011 month supply was in the 10s to 12s, okay? Even got above 12. A year's worth of supply. That means if an entire year went by without homes being listed, that's how long it would take for the market to get absorbed of all its inventory, just on average. Obviously, it doesn't work that way in practice, but on average. And so it appears that we've got a lot more demand offsetting all of the supply, but so much of that demand is going towards new construction. And so what people, when they're looking at these numbers, they don't care about new construction, right? You care about your home. You care about selling your home. Your neighbor cares about selling their home. They don't care what D.R. Horton or SK Builders or Ryan Homes or Meritage or Toll Brothers or anyone that you want to mention, Lennar. They don't care about any of these companies, how much inventory they have and how much demand they have. They only care about the demand for them. Well, unfortunately, we don't have in these stats a very clear way to break out the demand for new construction versus the demand for existing home sales. But I can assure you that it is more lopsided. We talked about this a few weeks ago, and I did provide some data that implies how lopsided the market is right now. And I've seen this for myself. I've seen this with my own buyer clients, how many buyer clients they start their search not wanting new construction, they end their search buying new construction. And that is the way the market is right now. You've got to be prepared for that. If you're selling a home, you've got to be prepared that one of your big competitors is the builders. And they are causing these numbers. They're causing the month supply of inventory. It's not their fault. They're like, I'm not blaming them for that. I had a builder agent one time say, "You hate builders." I was like, I don't hate builders. Why would I hate builders? I just talk about statistically, they are impacting the market in a very big way. And we need to consider that when we are looking at this data. So even though month supply is still going to end up being in the low fours, I've been telling you guys, if we get to the mid fours, we're in a buyer's market. And we might not even need to get to the mid fours to be there, quite frankly, because it feels very much like we're in the buyer's market right now, based on a lot of different things, a lot of the things that we talked about today, just the feel of the market as well. So I don't want to end on a negative note. If you're a buyer, that's a great note. Although if you're a buyer that doesn't want new construction, maybe not, right? That's the problem right now. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. Again, all my contact info is in the show notes if you need to reach out to me for any of your real estate needs. And please like, rate, review, subscribe. Do the same on Zillow so I can enter you into the $250 Amazon gift card giveaway. We will talk to you guys next time.